Am I the asshole for refusing to recover at home after surgery? I, 29 female, am really disappointed with my husband, 30 male, and furious at his mother, hag-aged female. Off to a good start, OP. Sorry this is so long, and throw away for privacy. For context, my husband is from the Midwest coast, where his mother still lives. He moved to the East Coast for college, and that's where we met, after graduation. In the start of our relationship, she would visit 3 to 4 times a year and make him take PTO, paid time off, so he could entertain her throughout her visit. After 2 years of this, while we were still dating, I asked him how are we ever meant to go on a vacation together if his paid time off is spent at home with his visiting mother. We agreed to save paid time off for a trip to Europe we took in 2023, and he agreed to tell his mother he couldn't take off from work every time she visited. In my last job, I was able to work from home 4 days a week, and every time she visited, she sulked all day like a puppy who has had her toys taken away. But once my husband came home, a switch flicked, and she was happy and clingy again. So here's the issue now. Husband and I moved states about 6 months ago, closer to my family. I have a new doctor who recommended me for a surgery that my old doctor kept putting off. It's not a complicated procedure, and it will greatly increase my quality of life for decades. My mother-in-law decided that she's due for a visit and wants to explore our new town, and she would come to help around the house while Opie recovers. I'm going to be out of surgery and in pain, and I really don't want to put up with her energy. However, we agreed, with my husband, saying that this isn't a sightseeing visit. She's here to help out. Cook, clean, laundry, etc., so that I can rest and recover. She can come for a proper visit later in the year. My husband dropped me off at the hospital on Wednesday. It was meant to be surgery, then 1 night overnight at the hospital for observations. On Thursday, the doctor told me that my labs were not where he'd like them to be, and that I should stay another night for observation and new lab work in the morning. I called my husband, and I told him that I'd hopefully be home the next day over the phone early afternoon. He did not visit on Thursday at all. On Friday, I was discharged and called my husband to tell him that I'd be ready in about an hour. It went straight to voicemail, and I figured that he's probably in a meeting, and I'll try again in a little bit. After calling a few times over the course of an hour, I called my sister, who was lucky enough to be excused from work for the afternoon. Many thanks to her understanding boss. She drove 90 minutes to get me and took me home, and the house was in shambles. Laundry baskets on the dining room table, the litter box not cleaned since Wednesday morning, days of dirty plates in the sink, etc. I just broke down crying. She packed me a bag and took me to her apartment to recover for 2 weeks. On Friday night, my husband called me asking where I am and that the hospital said that I was already discharged. He had been on a hike with his mother and there was no cell phone service, so he missed my calls, which also meant he took paid time off for his mum's visit again. Obviously, I can't ban him from taking paid time off, but wouldn't you rather spend that freed up time with your wife at the hospital instead of on a date with your mum? I told him that I no longer feel comfortable recovering in our house, and I won't be returning until it's thoroughly cleaned and his mother is gone. He's calling me the asshole because his mother just wanted to get to know our new area, and I wasn't able to leave the hospital anyway, and that I was making a big deal out of this. I yelled that he essentially abandoned me at the hospital and instead entertained someone whose being here was to help make recovery easier, not more stressful, and that she was here for support, not on a vacation. Maybe it's just the pain and pain meds, but am I in the wrong here? Is this a stupid hill to die on? There's a part of me telling me to see a divorce lawyer just to see what my options are, because I'm not sure this will ever change. I know this is going to sound incredibly selfish, but I want kids, but I now don't see myself having any with my husband in the foreseeable future. And if this isn't going to work out, I don't want to spend the next 5 years of wasting time and money on therapy and missing a chance to find someone I actually can start a family with. Someone who can be a committed father and husband before he's a son. Many thanks to anyone who has read all of this. In the comments, You Know You're Crazy says, he left you alone in the hospital. He went somewhere without cell service when he knew that you were being discharged. He didn't call you back until that night, hours after you were meant to be discharged. This man is ridiculous, and that is unforgivable. Let his mum have him. You were not overreacting thinking about divorce, and you were definitely not the asshole. This, being unreachable while your wife is in hospital, is despicable, but he must have had missed calls and messages from her because she called him when they wanted to discharge her. Did he not have effing voicemails from her that said, "Hey babe, where are you? They want to discharge me. I need you to come pick me up," and he never called her back. It is despicable and unforgivable. Then the house on top of it. I don't think I could come back from that. He's her next of kin. Who was going to make medical decisions if there had been an emergency or if she required further surgery and couldn't consent? This man isn't worth the carbon that he is made from. I completely agree with those comments. I think that this is next level unforgivable. To just spit in the face of your wife and knowingly abandon her when she was in the hospital. No, that is not the actions of someone that loves you. Those are the actions of someone that hates you and doesn't actually like your presence. He actively chose his own mother over you and your well-being, knowing that you were coming out of the hospital on Friday. He's like, you know what? How about we just do a hike into the middle of nowhere with no cell phone coverage and only come back at Friday night? That's such a good idea. I hate my wife. He's a piece of shit for doing that. He deserves to feel like a piece of shit. I would be telling this story to everyone he knows so that they can't get ahead of the story. They know exactly what he chose to do with his mother and that everyone understands why the divorce is coming and how it is going down. If he's going to start shit like this and expect an amicable breakup, I reckon he's got another thing coming. He deserves to have his reputation scorched earth for this one. That is insane to do that to your wife. Absolutely not the asshole, OP. Who does he think he is, saying that you're an asshole for being in your feelings over this? He has no empathy. Screw that guy. And now, on to the update. Hi all. I posted a month ago about my husband basically abandoning me at the hospital to entertain his visiting mother. I thought I'd post an update. We are done. I'm still at my sister's place, and my boss is letting me work remotely due to the commute. But I have an apartment that I'm moving into in July that's a 10-minute drive from my job. Thank you to everyone who responded. It was a bit overwhelming. I went into defensive mode and thought that I put my husband in a bad light, but you all really slapped the rose-colored glasses off me. We spoke on the phone every day the first week I was away. He asked his mother to leave ASAP so I would feel comfortable coming back home. After a week, I told him I still needed space and I was coming over the next day to grab more things. Once he saw that I had an empty bag and my sister brought 2 empty pieces of luggage, he realized I'm taking a lot because I'm not planning to come back soon. He asked to talk, and I figured that we should get it done and over with. I told him we needed to separate. He tried to argue that his mother only visits a few weeks out of the year and that things are great otherwise. I told him that the issue is that he expects me to be okay during those weeks, with him ignoring my feelings to cater to hers. I said that things don't magically go back to normal once she leaves. There's resentment towards him for weeks for him doing it again and self-hatred for me allowing it to happen again. He asked to go back to couples therapy. I told him that it didn't work last time. We had a great therapist who helped him put boundaries in place and to be able to deliver consequences when his mother overreached. But as soon as she would arrive, she would break one boundary, he would let it pass, and then she had carte blanche to stomp on all of them. And when I tried to reinforce them, I would get no support, and I would be the bad guy. Here is where I may have been a bit mean. I told him that I'm turning 30 this year and that I want to start a family, but I just can't see myself starting one with him. If he can't put me first when I'm just out of surgery, why would I think he'd put our children first? I reminded him that his mother is retiring in less than 10 years. What happens when she's decided that she's frail and lonely? I asked him if he moved in with her, whether I was okay with it or not. He replied, "I'm all she has." It really hit me then. This was not the life that I thought we were building together. It was not the life that I wanted or could settle for. He asked if he was really that bad of a husband. I sort of lied and said, "No, but you're just not the husband that I need." I told him he either needs a wife who's okay with being the side piece in his relationship with his mother, or no wife at all. I left with my sister, and 10 minutes into the ride back to her place, his mother called me. I sent it to voicemail. I started laughing, and my sister asked what was so funny. I said, "The first thing he did was call his mummy and tattle on me for leaving. Papers have been served, and it's been pretty amicable so far. Fingers crossed." In the comments, Fit Law says, "My wife is in the hospital and has poor labs. Gee, I'll just go on a hike with no cell service. I'm sure nothing could go wrong. Like, what the hell was that? I'd want to be within 30 minutes physically of the hospital and phone available 24/7. Even routine surgeries can go wrong." I'm happy that OP left, but I really don't understand how the husband saw no issue in his behavior, and neither did mother-in-law. Guaranteed mother-in-law knew exactly what she was doing. They have a grossly unhealthy relationship where his mother thinks he is her man. OP is so lucky she didn't have kids with this man. Mother-in-law was moving into their house in 10 years or less. Absolutely, she would have moved into that house, and he would have just done what he always did. Not support OP when they try to establish firm boundaries that they worked on in couples counseling. I agree that separation and divorce are the best in this instance, because he's shown he's unwilling to work with OP to carve a better future for themselves where they prioritize each other, because no matter what, he's always going to prioritize his mother, and why would you want to stay married to someone like that? What do you get out of that relationship? And she is correct as well. Why have kids with him? He's not going to respect those kids. He's not going to put the kids first. Whatever grandma wants, grandma's going to get. Kids be damned. I respect her for divorcing him and getting the hell out of there. Go find someone that is not going to waste your time and piss you off like he is, and potentially put your life in danger as well. Oh no, whoa, you had bad labs. Yeah, I'm going to go on this hike anyway. The thing that I promised absolutely not to do because she's here for support, but here's a middle finger to your face. You don't get any support. I'm going to disappear instead. Yeah, middle finger to this relationship. Goodbye. Thank you for the story, OP. Our next post is by user Embarrassing Lemon, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole here for telling my fiancé that I won't help pay the mortgage?" For some background, I, 29 female, and my fiancé, 30 male, have been together for 10 years. We had a baby back in 2020, and I lost my job at around the same time. Our lease to the apartment was up, and my grandma offered for us to move in with her, so we did. We basically had our own little apartment rent-free. I had thrown the idea of going to school out there, and everyone agreed that it was a good idea. My fiancé paid for it, and my grandma watched my baby while I went to class. I graduate this semester. I did part-time for a couple semesters. My fiancé has been making $90K a year for the past couple of years, and $70K when we first moved in. He's saved a good amount of money. We agreed to wait to get married until I finished school, and then we could buy a house together. We've been looking at houses more seriously for the past couple of months, and found one that we both love. We started talking to a mortgage broker, and that's when he dropped the bomb on it being him, and only him, on the mortgage indeed. He said I wouldn't have anything to do with it. I didn't say anything in the meeting, but afterwards I told him that I thought we were buying a house together and I'd pay half the mortgage. He said I would be paying half the mortgage, but my name just wouldn't be on it. So I told him that that would mean that I'd have no right to the house, and he said he knew. He said since he saved the 40% down, that it's only fair that he has the rights to the house in case we end things. I told him if that's what he wants to do, then I'm not paying for the mortgage. I said this isn't a partnership, and if he just wants his own place, that's fine, but I'm not paying for it. He called me a bitch, saying that he paid for everything for the past few years, including my schooling. I told him I stayed home and watched our child, so we didn't have to pay for daycare, and that ended up saving us money, since I would have been only able to work part-time. He said he didn't care, and that I need to pay for half since I already agreed to it. So Reddit, am I the asshole here for refusing to pay the mortgage? Edit to add, Originally, we were supposed to move in with my grandma for a few months while we saved some money for renting a new place. I thought maybe it'd be a good idea to go to school so that I'd make more money and we could potentially buy a place. My grandma said that we should stay with her until I finish school so that we can save up for a life together. My fiancé and I had agreed that we would be buying a house together. He paid for the schooling because we were getting married, and my student loans would have been our problem, not just mine. He encouraged me to finish my education so we could give our child a better quality of life. Edit 2. For those of you saying him paying for my schooling would be more expensive than rent, my schooling in total costed $17,000. Across 5 years, that's $3,400 a year on average. In the comments, Ogo7 asks, "Are you still living in your grandma's place rent-free? If so, I'd stay there and start saving for your own down payment. Staying at grandma's could be a great way to get your finances in order without the pressure of this situation. Saving for your own place and building your financial independence could give you more freedom in the future." If OP goes this route, she also needs to file for child support. That can be used towards a home for their child, even though this is not the way that OP had been expecting. And grandmas should be charging him rent for as far back as legally possible. Yeah, what the hell? It's rich of him to live rent-free at someone else's grandma's place and then turn around and go, well, this saved me a crap ton of money to invest in my own home without my partner and the mother of my kids. What an asshole. Why isn't he single and child-free if he doesn't want to share anything? This is most likely not what Granny had in mind when she decided to help out. I agree with that. I think there is quite some audacity of him to pull the wool over everyone's eyes and be like, you know what, I know I agreed to this in the past, but actually, I only agreed to it in a very specific way that's going to benefit me and screw over everyone else. And yeah, I have a 40% deposit down, and you're going to pay essentially 50% of the mortgage over the next 30 years or whatever, but I still retain 100%. Yes, you may contribute 50% to the total value of the house, but it's actually mine. Me. What a selfish loser. Honestly. Absolute loser behavior. He deserves the worst coming his way, and this relationship is not going to work. This engagement is not going to work. Best of luck to him buying a house when he's out on his ass and now has a ton of bills to pay, because he's not going to be living there for long, that's for sure. Not the asshole OP. And now, on to the updates. So first, thank you to everyone who commented. A lot of you had great insight and were very supportive. To those of you who weren't, I got to see a perspective of how my fiancé might be feeling, so thank you for that too. Although some of you were extremely misogynistic. To answer some questions, my grandma offered to give us a place to stay for a few months while I looked for a job, and so we could save money. This was the beginning of lockdown and no one was sure what the job market would look like. I had brought up finishing my degree, and my grandma offered to watch my baby while I was in class. My fiancé said he would pay for it since we didn't have to pay for rent or childcare. He called it an investment in our future. I got a Pell Grant and a scholarship, so he ended up only having to pay on average $3,400 a year for the schooling. If I wasn't going to school, my grandma didn't want us staying there long term. This was purely her trying to give us a leg up and help us in our future. She wouldn't have done so if she knew what my fiancé was going to do. She's said this. For the update, I told my fiancé we needed to talk about this arrangement, and I asked why he changed his mind all of a sudden. He said he worked hard for his money and didn't want to lose everything if we got divorced. I said that was fair, but now he's putting me in a position to lose everything if I have zero rights to the property. He said I didn't save up the money, so the house should be in his and his alone name until and unless I put down 40% also. I asked if he would consider a prenup that would give him the 40% he put down and we'd split 50-50 the rest of the equity. I said this would protect the lump sum he put down while giving me equity that I'd be paying for. He said he'd have to think about it, but he doesn't like the idea of having to sell if we split. I said then he can get his own place that he can afford on his own if he doesn't want me on the title that badly. This one he could barely afford with just his income. Not sure if he'd be approved for the mortgage on his own, to be honest. I also mentioned that I wanted to do couples therapy before we get married. He said no, that we didn't need therapy, and that I just needed to listen to him. That was the end of that conversation. I don't know who this person is. This is not the man that I had a child with. The man I had a child with massaged me every night while I was pregnant. He listened attentively to every random thing that I wanted to talk about. He treated me with the utmost respect. He was the only person I wanted with me while I gave birth. He used to say he could never hurt me or screw me over because it'd hurt our child. I love him so much, and I don't know what happened. In the comments, Arisha Oshun says, I would not marry this man or buy a house with him. Time to set up some co-parenting guidelines and go your separate ways. He showed you who he is. Believe him. Yup, see a lawyer about custody, child support, and get a third-party co-parenting app. Because anyone that says that OP needs to just listen to him won't be the easiest person to co-parent with. Somewhere along the way, maybe he was just the main breadwinner, he just started believing that his voice was the only one that matters, and you can't have a good relationship with that mentality. It's easy to be the breadwinner when you don't have to pay rent or daycare. I wonder if they helped OP's grandma out with utilities and the food bill for the last 4 years. Let him have his house and let the relationship end. He's not talking like a partner. He's talking like an adversary. I wouldn't be shocked if this guy is trying to end the relationship with this stunt. OP, I'm sorry that you're hurting right now. You gave us a completely valid compromise on a prenup. Wouldn't even accept relationship counseling? That's not okay. He wants access to your money, your support system, while giving you no security. You deserve better. Stay with your grandma and start saving for yourself. If the relationship ends, file for child support. Your child deserves to be provided for. OP, you need to run. This can get dangerous very fast. This man is desperately trying to overpower and control every aspect of your life. It starts with it being his house, it's then his money, his child, and you're nothing. I don't want to scare you, but it feels as though he baby-trapped you. Meaning even if you decide to leave him, you'll be tied by the child you share. He doesn't want to do therapy because he's aware of his behavior. He knows what he's doing. The therapist will know his true intentions and expose them. He's trying to gaslight you into thinking that he's not abusive. Please get separate accounts and stay at your grandmother's place until you can get a place away from him. OP says, we do have separate accounts thankfully. He'll have zero access to my money once I start my job in a couple weeks. And now, on to the next update. Thank you to everyone who commented on my last post. You've shown me that I'm not alone in this, and that other people have gone through the same. I also feel vindicated in my decision not to pay half the mortgage if I'm not on the deed. Thank you. Anyways, tonight, he and I got to talking about the arrangement again. He said he didn't want to do the prenup that I mentioned in my last update. So I told him that my final offer was couples counseling and getting married before we buy a house. I told him that we should get a rental temporarily until we figure everything out and come to an agreement. He outright refused again. He said he didn't want to waste money renting. He then said that I'm not entitled to any of his money and he won't buy a house after we marry because I'll just win it in a divorce. I said fine, we won't get married. He asked if I was breaking up with him and I said I didn't know, but I needed space. He lost it. He called me a bitch and a gold digger and told me that I owe him $30,000. I don't know where he got this number from. He said that I'm used up and no one will ever want me again. He went on ranting, yelling at me for about 3 minutes until my grandma came over to us and told him to leave. He's staying the night at a hotel and has called me repeatedly. He's left a few angry voicemails. I feel so numb. My baby is confused and keeps asking why I'm upset and where their dad went. I hate this so much. To everyone who mentioned he might have gotten with the Manosphere/Red Pill content, you were right. I looked at who he subscribed to on YouTube, and sure enough, I saw Joe Rogan, Fresh and Fit Podcast, Just Pearly Things, and Aiden Ross. It's safe to say that he's fallen down the Manosphere rabbit hole. I know the man that I fell in love with is gone, and there's nothing I can do about it. There were definitely signs I didn't notice. He always said that he was saving his money and he was buying a house. He also said on more than one occasion he was the man of the house. He got really big on being a provider and protector. I didn't put it all together until now. His behavior change has been pretty recent, like the last 8 to 9 months. That's it. My life is a shit show. Writing it out has been somewhat therapeutic. Thank you all again for your support. In the comments, Bewitching Chick says, keep the voicemails and messages he sends. You may need them. Get ready to go to court for custody and child support. Do not be alone with this man. Edit, Grandma is awesome. If he comes back and is yelling and acting up, call the cops. And props to Grandma for sticking up for you. She is amazing. Yeah, if fiancé is asking for money, remind him that Grandma would want back rent. Your life is not a shit show. Imagine if you moved into that house, paid for a few years, and actually married him. That would be a colossal shit show. I'm so sorry that you're going through this, but you found out before taking these next big steps. You have your degree, family support, and your kid. You'll be fine. Please talk to a good lawyer, custody, child support, and save and document everything. And OP says, thank you. You're right. It could have been a whole hell of a lot worse. And now onto the latest update. I've had a lot of people reach out and ask for an update, so here it is. A few days after my last update, he texted me and asked if we could meet to talk. I agreed, and I left my kid with my grandma and met him at a coffee shop. He started with an apology and went on about how it wasn't him and that he's a good guy and he just drank too much and lost control. He asked me if I wanted to still get married, and I said no. He asked if he could move back in so that we could work on things, and I said no. He even offered to do couples therapy, and I said that I'd have to think about it. He got quiet and asked if I ever even loved him. I said I did, but I can't handle the whole woe is me thing that he's been doing. I said I would have never tried to screw him over in the case of a divorce, and that if I didn't love him, I would have never had a kid with him. I said he needs to do individual therapy before I'd even consider doing couples therapy with him. He got angry and yelled that I needed therapy more than he did, and he refused to do it without me. He got up and said he's going to take me to court and fight for full custody, and that I'd never see a dime from him. I'm assuming he meant child support. Since then, he tried dropping by unannounced to take our kid. My grandma's lawyer friend, technically her friend's son, told me that since we don't have a custody arrangement in place, it's a free-for-all, and he could legally take him across state lines. He said it can be much more difficult to get him back, especially if we don't know where he is. So I didn't let him take our kid, but I said that he's welcome to come visit, but he's not leaving with him until we have a custody arrangement in place. That ended about as well as you could imagine. My grandma told me that I can stay as long as I need, and I got my kids signed up for daycare. That's all for now. I'm hoping we can find an arrangement without courts, but we'll see. In the comments, you need to get a lawyer stat and discuss the situation with the daycare. You don't want him showing up to the daycare and taking your son without you knowing. 100%, I'm hoping we can find an arrangement without courts, but we'll see. OP, this is not an option. This person is too mercurial. You need a lawyer and to ask for parenting classes, all communication through a parenting app, no interstate or international travel, fair visitation for him. It's just too much of a risk to do this outside the court system. Lawyer here. Every moment you don't get a lawyer and file for custody, you are risking losing your child. This is far more serious than you are treating it. He could take the child out of state and file for custody in that jurisdiction, and you might never get anything but occasional visitation. Please get a lawyer now. I'm the man of the house, shouts the guy living in his grandma-in-law's house. You're a gold digger, shouts the man who can barely pay for the house he wants and wants OP to pay half of while having no stake. It's funny, the men who complain about gold diggers never have any gold to lose. It's always broke losers, never men with means. I told an ex-partner's mother when she accused me of being a gold digger, if I'm digging gold off of your unemployed NEET of a son, then I should turn in my shovel. She never did like me for some reason. And it's good that we get these stories out here so that we can start telling people what the warning signs of loser behavior are. Ladies, please, if he starts spouting manosphere bullshit, you need to run for the hills. You need to get away from that. I know it's like so cliche and overdone and being like, ugh, manosphere, can that just like die out already? But it's like, look at the amount of relationships that it's destroying. Something that should be fairly set in stone. He benefits so much off of the living situation that the grandma generously agreed to. She didn't have to do that, but he got so much out of it, and suddenly he got too big for his boots because he started taking in all of this bullshit propaganda online, and look at the outcome. He had a daughter, he set his life on fire, he destroyed what would have been a great relationship to build together. For what? For nothing. He got propagandized. And you can't win in a situation like that. You just have to recognize the signs and recognize when to cut your losses. Thank you for the story, OP. I hope nothing but the best for you going forward. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.